Spring break.
Harmony really has a great sense of like what's happening in sort of the musical underworld and is always sort of drawn to the music of the fringes. And throughout the course of the years, we've always corresponded about what we've found exciting and interesting and where musical credibility lies in each sort of era of our relationship. So Harmony sent me the script to Spring Breakers, and we just started to go back and forth with music. And landed on sort of various sounds that ultimately weave their way into our story.
What I liked about Skrillex's music is that, for one, it's connected to the culture that you see in the film. It's where sound design and music kind of intersect. It becomes something that's very physical, and he has these kind of harmonies and things, and choruses and all these pop elements that are kind of mashed up with these kind of more abrasive electronic elements. And then I love Cliff Martinez's scores, and I thought, you know, if I could get the two of them together, which ended up happening, it would be amazing, because I wanted something that was in some ways from beginning to end that mimicked the picture.
Poor little chickies got out of my reach.
The music really just doesn't work in the background of the storytelling, but it also really works in the foreground, and not just simply the on-camera pieces, but rather, you know, I think that the musical through line is really fierce and persistent in the film, and really I don't know that I've worked on very many films where there's as much music in the movie. I mean, it pretty much is wall-to-wall music, and I think it really, in a sense, it's sort of the pulse of the movie.
It's always a challenge when the dialogue is very sparse. That's when the music moves from the background to the foreground. Spring Breakers in many sections feels like a silent movie, and when that happens, the music becomes very important. Particularly, I think, in a film like Spring Breakers, where there may be some dramatic ambiguity. Are things supposed to be funny? Are they supposed to be tragic? What exactly is the reaction you're going for? And there's a lot of places in Spring Breakers where I feel like the music is kind of leading the reaction.
This wasn't supposed to happen.
We would cut the film to temp scores. Some of it would be Cliff Martinez pre-existing soundtracks. Other things would be Sonny's music.
It was an interesting fit. The film is dominated by this electronic dance music, but there's also kind of a musical, psychological component.
How can this be?
That was a lot of my older scores was in there, and it somehow seemed to complement this more aggressive, beat-driven music, and it seemed to work together pretty well. And then when I saw the film, I fell in love with it, and I said, you know, I don't care that you're just going to pay me in frozen shrimp. I love this film so much, I'm going to do it.
When we felt good about a scene, we would pass the scene off to one or both of them, and then sometimes the sequences, the music would be a combination of the two of them.
So this was one of the first scenes that I worked on, and this is one of the first scenes where I really felt like I established the style and the approach of the film. When I first saw this scene, it was cut a little bit differently. The guy standing around in jock straps seemed kind of threatening and menacing, and that was the tone that you took from it. It was like, is she going to get raped? And it really was kind of creepy. And I just thought, I am not going to play it that way. I don't think that's obvious that it's, you know, she's at risk. I want to play it as like a lullaby, like a Brahms lullaby. I want to make it really sweet. I think that will be so much more perverted. And I knew that Harmony was like, you know, the more perverted the better. But I also thought it made dramatic sense to play it that way, because rather than seeing it as Jeopardy, I saw it as this is their idea of a good time, and they don't really know the trouble that they're getting into. And it just was kind of a great moment. I played something on bells or Celeste that sounded very Brahms lullaby-like. It just seemed to work very, very nicely. It was a great contrast, which I'm always trying to do. I don't like to repeat what you're already seeing. I like to do something that's contrasting, but that also contributes something meaningful. It rounded off the sharp edges of the scene, which I think was good, because initially it was kind of harsh. So that became a bit of a template for a lot of the other scenes as well, was to kind of play down the shock and play down the menace and play up the innocence and the childlike quality of the characters and the situations.
Cliff Martinez is really one of the great film composers working today, and I think, for instance, what he did superbly in Spring Breakers, where there were a lot of divergent musical elements in the film, in moments of the film, I think Cliff really helped to orchestrate all of the musical elements and sort of put a consistent patina on the film that gave the music a wholeness in spite of its disparate elements.
God, I can't believe how many new friends we made. Friends from all over the place. I mean, everyone was so sweet here.
The big set piece at the end, the big gunfight, they had a piece of licensed music that was a licensed classical piece. To me, that's the most prized chunk of real estate in a film, is that last scene, that last piece of music. And to me, that's where you have your musical final summation that says, and that's the end of our story. So I didn't like that idea at all, but I knew I just had to put up or shut up. So I just said, I didn't say anything, I just wrote something. They didn't ask me to write anything. They said, leave that alone. We love this piece, we're gonna license it. And I took Skrillex's Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites material and made kind of a very, very slow orchestral version of it. I remember when Harmony and Doug came over and saw it for the first time. I think he leapt out of the chair and high-fived me or hugged me or something, but I got a big approval for that.
Well, it's nerve-wracking a lot of times because you want it to be so good, and then you're always like, oh my god, what happens if it's like less than the temp track? And like, luckily these guys were so great, they were so perfect for the film that like I was always blown away. It was like, sometimes it was like the greatest gift ever. You think the scene is gonna be good, and then you hear it with that and you're just like, whoa, it goes into some other realm.